What's going on, everybody? So, quick update here. I want to give everybody on my podcast, The Real Hernando. For context, for anyone that's new to the channel, my business is called Sub Productions. I'm a podcast production podcast producer. My company is a podcast production agency. And with that, I started a podcast here for my community in Hernando, Mississippi, where I interview local business owners and public figures to get their story, share their story with the community as a way to promote ultimately their business, promote them, which promotes the business. People buy people. You hear that a lot in sales and marketing. People buy people. So maybe if they hear the story of the owners for the local ice cream shop that they've gone to before, but now, wow, the story of the owners is really interesting. And this is a true mom and pop. I like them even more now. So I'm going to support them more. That's the theory behind it. Also as a way for me to market myself and now become a local business. And my business is podcast production. And my sort of, my way of giving before asking people for money is to create this podcast, interview these owners, and release these episodes on iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. So in doing this, I'm getting to know people. I'm getting to know all these business owners. We've launched, I think, 4 episodes now. I've recorded a handful. I have other ones booked. But really quickly, the not only is the podcast name circulating around, but I'm circulating around because my face is on social media more now, and I'm following and friending a lot of local people now. So now when I pitch to a business, hey, would you like to be on the Real Hernando podcast? I don't have to explain what it is anymore. They're like, oh, I've heard great things. Yes, I'd be honored to be on your podcast. So cool, right? The word spread. And all these business owners know each other. So they're telling me, hey, go talk to this person down here at this store. Okay, so I connect with them and they already knew about the podcast. So it's getting momentum. And it's very special and very cool. Well, through this networking, this is the update. This is the announcement. It's not really a big announcement because it's in the title, right? But I will be meeting with the mayor on Friday. Well, as I'm recording this, on April 6th. So he and I have an appointment on the 8th. And how that came to be is the mayor, politics aside, and I'm going to get to that too, but he's an extremely liked human being here in this community. And as I've been meeting these business owners, his name always comes up. It's Mayor Chip Johnson. And has always been like, oh, you should talk to Chip. You should talk to the mayor. He's a great person. He's a good friend of ours. I'm like, well, put in a word for me, introduce me, and they're like, oh yeah, and it just becomes that kind of conversation. Yeah, I will, and it never happens, right? So that's been happening quite often. His name always comes up. You should talk to him. He's a great guy. He's one of our closest friends. So, good reputation, it seems, right? So, eventually I interviewed, and I'm going to leave other names out of this here, but I interviewed another business owner, and the mayor came up again. But this time the person was like, I called him as soon as I knew I was going to be on your podcast to tell him about it. I'm like, really? And she was like, oh yeah, he knows about the podcast. And she apparently does a lot of video editing for him. She does other stuff for him. So they're really close. So she's telling me 2 things. She's telling me that she straight up told the mayor that she's going to be on the podcast. But what's extra special about that conversation is that he already knew about it. So she wasn't telling him, hey, I'm on this podcast and this is what the podcast is and what it's about. It's like, hey, that podcast you're familiar with now? I'm going to be on it. As a way to, like, she was just telling a friend, And I was like, that's awesome. He's like, he knows about the podcast? She's like, yeah. He's interested and he wants to know how it goes. I'm going to let him know how this all goes and then maybe I can connect you two. I was like, yeah, absolutely. So the interview went great, and I was like, I'd love to meet the mayor. She's like, oh yeah, he's ready. He's ready to meet you. Here's his number. I get his direct cell phone number. I'm like, cool. And apparently that's how he rolls. Like, when he puts out some kind of, like, advertisement on TV, well, not advertisement, but like a PSA or a promotion or when he's campaigning or whatever, the phone number that you see doesn't go to his assistant, doesn't go to an office. It's his cell phone number. So, pretty cool, right? So, now I have his number, and now I have to kind of build up the courage. I'm calling the mayor. But knowing that he already is expecting me, he knows about the podcast. I mean, that's so easy now. Total nightmare if I decide, you know what, I want the mayor on the podcast and I'm just cold calling. That's different. Now I'm trying to ask him to be on something he doesn't know about, a podcast. Can I trust this guy? Is what he's going to think. Like, who is this guy? I'm not going to sit across from this stranger with this podcast I never heard about. I'm the mayor. Like, he's got responsibilities. He has to be able to trust people that are recording him speaking and publishing it to the world, right? But he already knows what this is. He already knows sort of who I am. But he knows what the podcast is. And now he knows that he can trust the host because of this person telling him. So I called him. Called him last week. And super nice guy. He didn't answer, hi, this is Mayor Johnson. He answered like this, hello? Which is sort of, obviously, a normal way to answer your phone, but I'm calling the mayor. And it's just another guy. It's just a dude. And I just like the humanization of that. So we had a great little talk, and straight up, he's like, yeah, man, I've heard great things about the podcast. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to meet you. So what we're doing is a pre-interview. For every business owner I interview here, I always do a pre-interview. I book a time to meet them face-to-face, shake a hand. I bring my iPad. I show them what the website looks like. I show them what their episode is going to look like. I just give them more context on how it works. Just in the sales world, it's called a touch point. So it gives me a handshake, a meeting, a touch point. Then we book an interview. Now I'm seeing them again. Another touch point, another chance to talk. I don't want the interview day to be the first time they meet me. I want to be able to build a little bit of a relationship prior to the interview, so it's just more comfortable. And I have a chance to sit down with the person and be like, what would you like to talk about? That's the other part, is I want to make these guests look good. And I keep a pretty general outline of the questions I want to ask. Keep it pretty organic. I want to learn in real time. So if the guest says something very interesting, I'm right there with the audience being, engaged with it in real time along with the audience. I don't ask a whole lot in the pre-interview, but I ask enough to see how we want to frame this, where we want to go. But really, 95% of the pre-interview is just to meet, talk, explain how this works. Try to build that relationship, make them feel comfortable. So now let's talk about interviewing a mayor, or obviously this mayor, but this is what's going to be interesting and exciting about this is, obviously this is a high profile guest. It's the mayor of the city. But this podcast is zero politics, 0%. Maybe we talk about COVID in some of these interviews, but only because of how it may have affected them as a small business, and it might be interesting to other business owners or just general people. How did that business survive COVID? It's not about masks, it's not about mandates, it's not about vaccines. It's about the shutdown, and we don't get into why it shouldn't have happened or how it should have been better. None of that stuff. It's basically the story of like COVID hit, we had to shut down for 6 weeks, and this is how we changed and did curbside, and then we did this, and this is how we navigated through that. That's interesting. That's very apolitical. That isn't polarizing. But the word COVID is literally like the only thing that could tip off any kind of political or polarizing content. But that's all it's ever been. Now I'm interviewing a mayor. Okay, so no politics, and I'm interviewing the mayor. How is that going to work? Well, you know what? The mayor is a human being, and we're going to talk about the person. And then that's what I need to talk to him about during this pre-interview. Is how can we frame that? Who's the person? Where are you from? What was your upbringing like? Where'd you go to school? Did you play sports? Did you ever play music? Are you a musician? Try to just be as generalized as possible, specific to his life growing up as the person. But he's the mayor, part of his story. So we have to figure out how to tie it all in and talk about his experience of wanting to be mayor, the journey from the thought of wanting to do it to really working towards becoming the mayor, and then how he campaigned, but not like how did you campaign and how did you raise money. It's what was that experience like? Were you afraid? Were you scared? And maybe he might not even want to talk about that. I don't know. That's why we have a pre-interview. I throw this stuff out to him, and he hits back, and maybe we shouldn't go there, we shouldn't go here. I want him to trust me that this isn't a hit piece. I don't even know what his politics is. I don't know if he's Republican or Democrat. I can probably guess Republican because of where we live. I don't care. And I hope that someone can listen to this episode when it eventually publishes, and the listener doesn't know. That would be good. The listener is like, man, I just listened to a 45-minute interview with the mayor of Hernando, and I don't know what his party is. Mission accomplished. That's how humanized I want to make this. But we have to talk about his journey to becoming mayor, because that's part of his life. Just like interviewing a small business. The whole story is leading up to what was that crossroads in their life where they decided, you know what, I got to start my own business. And the business is going to be this. Well, where did you come up with that? What made you make that decision? How did you come with that decision? And what was that journey like? What was that first year like? What was the first 5 years like? What were some mistakes you made? What was your big win? When did you really know that you were going to be successful and your business was thriving? It's all interesting stuff. Not how do you budget for labor? It's not a tutorial. It's trials, tribulations, feelings, the journey, the story. So I'm going to try to frame that, but instead of it being about a small business, it's about a person becoming mayor. And we'll see what happens. But super exciting. This podcast launched. The soft launch was January 25th. The official launch was February 8th. It's now April 6th. So, March, April-ish. So March, April, 2+ months. Let's say 10 weeks total. and here I am preparing to have coffee with the mayor in 2 days. What can you do? Super cool stuff. So that's it. I'm gonna keep you updated on these things whenever I get big announcements like this. And I think I mentioned this. I mentioned this in yes, I did a whole video on this on a different topic. But I am gonna be playing music again. I'm in a new band. Uh, New as in it's me and three other good friends of mine are playing it together again. So it's not a brand new band. It's just me and my buddies deciding to create a new band, but we've all played with each other 100 times. Um, but it's good. And we already have some summer dates where we're going to be touring. We're trying to get some local stuff in my area. But next week is our first rehearsal. So I'm going to definitely talk about this a lot on this channel. My music side of things. It's going to give me things to talk about. It's going to be nice, especially when I get back out on the road this summer. When we travel on a bus, like a nice little tour bus, which is super cool. Try to do some videos in the bus, show you the bus, show you the stages that I'm on, show you the areas that I'm in. We might be, and even promote. Like we're going to be in Wisconsin this summer. I'm pretty sure I have a lot of viewers on this channel that live in Wisconsin. We're going to be playing Summerfest. Everyone in Wisconsin that likes music and the festivals in Wisconsin, you're instantly right now being like, whoa, I love Summerfest. It's a huge festival in Wisconsin. We're going to be there. So I'll throw this stuff out there. So if I'm in an area where you live, come to the show. Introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you. So, but those are all things coming up. Just kind of giving you an update on this other stuff that will be content on this channel. So that's it. I hope everyone had a great day, and we will talk again soon. Thank you.